First of all, just, I have to say I'm extremely proud of our team. There's going to be a lot of, just in games like this, the obvious reality is we got to learn to completely finish games when we're up. But the thing about it is they get scholarships too, and sometimes when that momentum shifts, then you really get to kind of see the character of your football team. And I think sometimes, we started playing on our heels a little bit. We probably even started calling calls on our heels, trying to kind of shut it down. And I think we learned a little bit. I was really proud of Dusty Havorka, our offensive coordinator, to get back to, I kind of told him in the phones, I said, get back to like it's the first drive of the game. Let's get back on our off our heels. And so some of those shots that were taken, maybe people go run the ball, run the clock. We needed to get our confidence back in our offense, that's who we are. And so at the end of the day, we made the plays when we need to shut it down. But, we emphasized all week, this team right now is we've had 3 weeks of learning lessons. We got humbled in week 1. We found out if you play with great effort in week 2, you can play against an FBS team and hang in there. And then we showed that we can come back. We're resilient in week 3. And guess what we get to learn about this week, right? That now we start fast. Now we got to learn how to finish. So every week's a new challenge, but that's what coaches is all about. With just quick things off the top of my head that stick out. It's a small. It's probably not a big. Maybe not make ESPN play, but some of the plays tonight, guys that kind of stick out to me. I just kind of acknowledged Sanjay Strickland. A big hit on that back. We talked about setting the tone this whole week instead of starting fast. And Sanjay, that was a big back that runs hard. We watched him all week on film, and Sanjay set a tone with our defense with that hit. And that's what really triggered how our defense played in that first half. And then, just Nate Glance's kind of putting the team on his shoulders right now. We obviously, we've got some sore ankles in our running back room right now, and Jared Rhodes and Stephen Hall pushing through some of that's been huge. But Nate, really kind of had to pick up the mantle a little bit in our run game a little bit. And then, I just, again, Jared on that drive, we're pinned back. I just told him in the TV timeout there, we're on the 2-yard line. This could be a type of drive that can take the wind out of their sails. And so for, Jared picking up first downs, running hard to get a first down, you think another little thing that triggered these types of things. So, just really proud of our guys, and we'll watch the film. We got a lot of things we need to correct, a lot of things we need to learn as a coaching staff. I sit up here, I think of things we got to do to be even put them in better positions. I think, which is we got to learn and emphasize. So with that, I'll kind of turn it over to some questions.
Coach, obviously you guys get out of the gates to a hot start, which was the point of emphasis for you. But then you come out of the halftime and they're starting to make some play. That's a really good football team over there.
Yeah.
That's been receiving votes in the top 25. And at least to us up in the booth, I like your anecdote of, hey, they get scholarships too. Yeah. It felt to us up there, it wasn't as though you maybe took the foot off the gas from an effort standpoint as much as they're actually starting to make some plays. What was the conversation like on the sidelines during the timeouts to try to kind of remain level and even keel, because eventually you did flip the momentum and throw that last punch?
Yeah, I remember, listening to both my coordinators talking to their team. I address them once in a while. I kind of let those guys when we're talking about adjustments. But really, just like on the 98-yard drive to get backed up like that, it was just one of those things. I think they need to remember that we believe in them, and say hey, go back to having some fun playing football. Quit playing on your heels. We're going to be aggressive in our play calling and things like that. And I want Dusty to be aggressive like that. We got him once on a 4th down play for a touchdown, and we thought we might get the same kind of look, and we took a shot that could have put it away. But I think a lot of those conversations, when you have a momentum shift and you see a sideline start to get some momentum, you can't see panic in our sideline, in our coaches. You can't get loud. You can't, because that's when they start to sense that. And so, we just kept going back to basics. If you think about, the touchdowns, we didn't have any big plays off of blown coverages, things. It was stuff of missed tackles. And sometimes, that's the basics. It's sometimes you get a little fatigued, and they're explosive touchdown plays. We're there. We're not making tackles. And so you go back to emphasizing that.
I think Dempster, their lead running back, had around 50 yards rushing in the first quarter, and then finished the game with 88 total. I know you talk about that.
Yeah.
Big hit, that big play. Would you say that was kind of the turning point as far as slowing down the rush, or was there some specific moment where you noticed adjustments made to where all of a sudden their running attack with him from being the heartbeat to being, almost a lost identity?
Yeah, I think the reality with that team is, when you look at their quick game, we didn't really feel like that quarterback was a guy that was going to really stretch the field on us last night. We watched a lot of film on him. He wasn't there last year, so last year's film didn't help us with him a whole lot. That back was. They really try to get you. They're box counters, and when you got a back like that, and you try to load up a box. And then they're going to throw it outside, and so it's a tough offense to really defend because they're going to count boxes and they're going to, and it's a very good offense. They do a good job with it, and then they run the ball well, and so sometimes we probably played a lot more man than we probably do because we had to get guys in the box to that's what we started doing to kind of shut down that run game. But as you could see, that's where we started giving up a little bit in the pass game. So that's why they call it football. It's a chess game, and Coach Inama and his defensive staff put together a heck of a defensive plan tonight because we just didn't know much about them. We've never crossed paths, we've never played each other, and we needed to. That's what we sold to our team all week. Be ready. What they're going to do, but we got to figure out what kind of team they are.
So, Coach, kind of looking at this second half, something I kind of mentioned during our broadcast was the different kind of adversities you face pretty much every single week, and this time was something completely different. You still had control, you're still in the lead, but it was that pushback by Stonybrook in that second half, something you guys haven't really seen yet this season, or haven't seen yet this season. So what would you say about your guys trying to handle that and how they handled it in that second half, trying to allow no panic whatsoever, knowing that Stonybrook was right there pushing back?
Yeah, I think with this team, the reason why I feel very always optimistic about this team is because we've seen that they have fight. When their backs against the wall, they have fight. And we didn't really see that in the first week because we were shocked. Because we went in there, we weren't humble. We beat that team 64-0, and everybody just thought it was going to happen. And we learned a valuable lesson then. And then, our humility, to your point, you just have to continue to teach these guys lessons. At the end of the day, I've never, because I don't think this is an excuse. There's teams all over the place that got young guys playing. We got redshirt freshmen starting in places. We got true freshmen starting in places. And a lot of them have played 3 college football games, and they haven't been in this situation about how do you finish a game. They haven't been in this. So we're learning lessons. I'm kind of feeling like this week we got to put this thing all together. We've learned all the necessary lessons that we still have yet to play a complete game, but I'm looking forward to that, and we want to try to take that into this week as we go into Miami of Ohio.
Coach, how much confidence is Nate playing with right now, not only with his arm, but with his legs, and then also play calling?
Yeah.
That you can really dial in anything he's going to execute.
We crossed a major milestone with Nate today. He actually slid twice and ran out of bounds once. And so, that was a major, Rammer will tell you, that's been but the team feeds off of him. Like, what's some about when your quarterback down on the goal line just puts his head down and runs over dudes because he wants that touchdown. It just, you can just hear the sideline. You hear defensive guys going. I heard guys saying, "That's my quarterback. That's my quarterback." And Nate just thrives on that stuff. He's not a selfish guy. He wants to win. He's making a lot smarter decisions. I wouldn't say smarter decisions. He's more comfortable now because he knows our offense. Last year, it took him a while to get caught up to learning our offense, and he was playing a little bit of doubt and things. He just has a grasp on stuff now, and those guys feed off of him. And he doesn't get real rattled. If we get a 3 and out or something, he just moves on to the next play. And that's what we talk about. What's win stand for? What's important now, right? Yeah, I said, you tell me how fast you are all the time, but no, I didn't. we were hoping he when that play's going on, I think he was looking at the monitor, but because you don't want something punched from behind, So instead of me yelling run faster, I'm saying tight. You don't want that punch from behind, but yeah, we'll cover that Monday when we slow down that film a little bit.
Just that final drive, I think 4.5 minutes to go, you get the ball there. 3 first downs, you get a first down from Rose in the third 11 pass to Rico. Said you hadn't been in that situation where you kind of had the lead and had to protect it. Just see anything in those last 4.
Well, I'm going to talk about Rico on this because, you talk about a young, he's a freshman, he's a redshirt freshman, and I'm proud of him because he played like a freshman week 1. And he wasn't making smart, he was, and when I say that, I want to see how a guy takes to heart, I want to be better, I want to be coachable, I want to do that, and that's what he's done. And I'm so proud of him because he's a guy that cares for this team, and sometimes, and he's not the only one. We've got a lot of young dudes out there I'm having the same conversations with, about growing up in college football and like being, and now you see the plays he's making out there, and because, he's running routes where he's supposed to be. He's making, because he'll catch anything. But a lot of it was just, Nate having the trust in him where he's going to be. And, Dusty went right back to, that key third down. It could have been tempting to run a ball, try to make them use their last time. Maybe they had one timeout left, get the clock rolling. But the confidence in Coach Avorka and Nate, and we knew we were going to run it to Rico down the seam to get that first down. We think it's a high percentage play with what they're giving us, but it's a gutsy call. Proud of the call that Dusty went with, because if you got to punt that thing right back to him. So but really proud of Rico. But you saw Jalen Smith today. Another kid that Coach Avorka, Coach Jackson, the receiver coach, has been on even like Jalen about. There's times where you can go compete for balls, and in the past couple of games, well, you saw him compete for balls today and got underneath that one, makes a catch, and he dropped the first ball of the first play of the game last week against Charleston Southern. That didn't really set our tone. And again, these guys are being coachable right now, and I give Jalen so much praise because he's another guy that is an unselfish player that takes coaching, and you saw how that's transferring over. So I'm seeing so many of those things from this team, and that's kind of gaining our confidence a little bit, because they're taking coaching, and I'm proud of them.
Coach, I thought that it was reminiscent. You talked about the game plan with Coach Inam, and I know if all things are equal, you want to play a lot of too high, a lot of zone, and you mentioned how you kind of couldn't do that tonight. You had to adjust. It reminded me a little bit how you were able to shut them down towards the end of the game plan with Simo, who runs a lot of RPO stuff also, and he used man coverage phenomenally in that game. Did you feel like there was any similarities in the preparation or how it came out?
Well, it's funny. You bring that up. I have the head coach at Bryant, Chris Merritt, really good guy. I've gotten to know him. I texted him this week, not knowing anything about other than watching film, what Stonybrook's all about. Like, what's their identity? What are they kind of like? And he texted me back because I said, you were in our conference. We played each other in the association before Bryant went to their league. So they've played Stonybrook. And it's ironic when I asked him about that, like, who are some teams in our league that we can kind of, that would be similar to? And that's exactly who he said. SEMO, UT Martin, some of that RPO stuff. Different quarterback than they had last year, but still a lot of the same concept. So, that is a hard offense to defend. I've been a D coordinator, and when you're playing a lot of the teams that count boxes and say, hey, we're going to have a lot of stuff off of what you do, and the eye discipline, that's what they want to try to get you conflicted with, and sometimes man coverage. And like I said, the thing that stings a little bit, this game probably should have been a little bit more secured by just tackling. That's the thing, and that's what we'll emphasize. You achieve what you emphasize, and we got a little tackle circuit that they're not always crazy about that I promise you we'll be doing Tuesday. So.
One more. What does Coach do after a win now?
What do I do, or what's he do right now?
What's Coach do after a win now? After this?
Well, I'm gonna go eat. First of all, I'm really hungry. This, but it was fun to celebrate with our guys. Got my brother and family in town. I'm excited to go celebrate with them a little bit and go talk to my family. But just go celebrate this one a little bit. But I got to eat. I got to tell you. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.